You need to believe, says the gardener to the millionaire's son, and the unbelievable happens. Robert Thompson watched from his bedroom window as his 8-year-old son talked to the gardener among the rose bushes. Ever since his wife Emily had left 3 months ago, taking with her secrets he still struggled to understand, the businessman felt he had lost not only the woman he loved, but also his ability to be a father. It was on that Tuesday afternoon that little Matthew ran into the backyard, where Mr. Jenkins, the family gardener for over 20 years, was carefully pruning the plants. The boy had tears in his eyes as he tugged at the older man's dirt-stained shirt. "Mr. Jenkins, my dad won't leave his wheelchair," Matthew said, his voice trembling. "He just sits in his room staring at nothing. He doesn't even answer me when I talk to him." The gardener stopped pruning and crouched down to the boy's height. His calloused hands gently held the small shoulders. "Matthew, you need to believe your father can walk again. But first he has to understand what's truly paralyzing him inside." "What do you mean, Mr. Jenkins? The doctor said there's nothing wrong with his legs." "Exactly, my boy. Sometimes people are stuck, not because their body doesn't work, but because their heart is too hurt." The gardener glanced toward the window, where he knew Robert often watched the garden. He had worked for the family when Robert himself was just a young executive full of dreams. He had witnessed his marriage to Emily, the birth of Matthew, and now he was watching the family slowly fall apart. "Your father was different before, Matthew. He used to run through this garden, play with you, even help me with the plants on weekends." "I remember a little," the boy murmured. "He taught me the names of the flowers. And he can teach you again. But for that, we need to help him remember who he really is." Just then, the firm voice of Dorothy, the housekeeper, echoed across the garden. "Matthew, your Aunt Margaret is here. Come inside now." The boy looked at Mr. Jenkins with worry. Aunt Margaret always brought trouble when she visited. "Go on, my boy. But remember what we talked about. Tomorrow I'll teach you something special about plants." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. Inside the house, Margaret Thompson walked through the living room with the authority of someone used to solving other people's problems. At 55, Robert's older sister had built a solid career as a lawyer and had never married, dedicating her life to the family business. "Dorothy, where's my brother?" she asked, adjusting her navy blazer. "In his room, Mrs. Margaret. He hardly ever leaves it." "And Matthew? How is he handling all this?" "The boy's been very quiet. He spends most of his time in the garden with Mr. Jenkins." Margaret sighed and walked upstairs to her brother's room. She knocked lightly before entering. "Robert, it's me, Margaret." The businessman sat in his wheelchair, staring out the window at the garden. He didn't turn when his sister entered. "I came to talk to you about your situation," Margaret said, pulling a chair closer to him. "There's nothing to talk about, Margaret. The doctors have run every test possible." "That's exactly why we need to talk. The doctors said you're physically fine, that you could walk again any time." Robert finally looked at his sister. His eyes were sunken, with dark circles betraying sleepless nights. "You don't understand, Margaret. When Emily left, she took something from me that I can't explain. She took more than that, Robert. She took responsibilities too. Matthew needs his father. I can't be the father he deserves. I can't even get out of this chair." Margaret felt her chest tighten seeing her brother in that state. Robert had always been the strongest among them, the one who took over the family business when their father passed, the one who cared for everyone. "What really happened that night, Robert? You never told me the details." Robert closed his eyes, and the memory returned like a movie he didn't want to watch. 3 months earlier, Emily had come home earlier than usual. She found Robert in the office, as always, working late, but that time she didn't go straight upstairs to the bedroom. She stood in the doorway, watching him for a few minutes. "Robert, we need to talk," she had said, her voice different. "Of course, love, just let me finish this report." "No, Robert, now." Something in her tone made him save the document and close the laptop immediately. Emily sat in the chair across from his desk, her hands trembling slightly. "I'm leaving, Robert." The words hit him like a punch to the gut. "What do you mean, leaving? Where?" "Away, I can't stay here anymore." "Emily, what's going on? Did we do something wrong? Our marriage was fine, wasn't it?" You don't understand, Robert, you never did. Then explain it to me, help me understand. That's when she said the words that still echoed in his head every day. I never really loved you, Robert. I married you for security, for money, for the life you could give me. But now I've found someone I truly love. What? Robert had stood up from his chair, his legs shaking. I've been in a relationship with someone else for 2 years, someone who makes me feel truly alive. And Matthew was the only thing he could ask. He'll stay with you. It'll be better that way. Emily stood and walked toward the door. Emily, wait. Let's talk this through. We can fix this. There's nothing to fix, Robert. I've already made up my mind. Then she turned for the last time and said, I never wanted to be a mother, Robert. I never wanted this life. I'm sorry I lied for so long. And then she simply left. Robert had stood frozen in the office until dawn, trying to understand what had happened. When he finally tried to go upstairs, his legs wouldn't respond. Dorothy found him on the staircase floor, conscious but unable to move. Robert? Margaret's voice brought him back to the present. She said she never loved me, Margaret. Said she never wanted to be a mother. How can I be a father to a boy knowing his mother rejected him? Because you love him, Robert. And that's what matters. It's not enough. I failed as a husband. How can I not fail as a father? Margaret held her brother's hand. You didn't fail as a husband, Robert. Emily made choices that had nothing to do with you. Just then, Matthew appeared at the bedroom door, hesitant. Dad? Can I come in? Of course, son. The boy approached slowly as if afraid to disturb. Aunt Margaret, Mr. Jenkins wants to talk to Dad. He said it's important. The gardener? Margaret asked. What could he possibly want? He said he knows a way to help Dad walk again. Robert and Margaret exchanged glances. Margaret looked visibly annoyed. Matthew, the gardener is a good man, but he's not a doctor. He can't promise things like that. But he said doctors don't understand everything, Aunt Margaret. He said some things only heal with the heart. Robert looked at his son, and for the first time in months, felt something like curiosity. What else did he say, Matthew? He said he's going to teach me about special plants. Plants that help people remember good things. Margaret shook her head. Robert, you can't encourage these fantasies. The boy needs to understand the reality of the situation. What reality, Margaret? The reality is that I can't walk, but the doctors say I can. The reality is that my wife left me, taking every bit of hope I had with her. Dad, Matthew moved closer. Mr. Jenkins said Mom left something in the garden, something for you. What do you mean, son? He said that before she left, Mom planted something special, and that only you can find it. Margaret stood up, visibly annoyed. That's ridiculous. Emily never even liked gardening. But she did, Aunt Margaret, Matthew protested. She was always looking at the flowers through the window. Robert remembered that was true. Emily had always had a special fondness for plants, even if she'd never worked in the garden herself. Robert, don't let the gardener put crazy ideas in Matthew's head, Margaret said, grabbing her purse. I'll talk to him. No, Margaret, let me speak with Mr. Jenkins first. Are you sure? I am. Matthew, can you ask Mr. Jenkins to come up to the room? The boy ran off, happy to finally see his father showing interest in something. Minutes later, Mr. Jenkins climbed the stairs slowly, removing his hat before entering the room. He was a 62-year-old man with graying hair and hands that told the story of decades working the earth. Good afternoon, Mr. Robert, Mrs. Margaret. Mr. Jenkins, Matthew said you wanted to talk to me. The gardener glanced at Margaret, then at Robert. It's about your wife, Mr. Robert, Mrs. Emily. What about her? She came to see me the day before she left. She was very upset, crying a lot. Robert felt his heart race. Emily had gone to the gardener. What did she say? She asked me to take care of something special in the garden, said that one day you'd need to find it. Margaret scoffed. Mr. Jenkins, with all due respect, this makes no sense. I understand it sounds strange, Mrs. Margaret, but Mrs. Emily was deeply distressed. She said she'd made a terrible mistake and needed to leave a way to explain herself. A way to explain herself? Robert asked. She planted something in the back flower bed near the fence. Said that when you were ready, you'd understand. Ready for what? To forgive, Mr. Robert. To forgive her, and to forgive yourself too. Margaret crossed her arms. Mr. Jenkins, this story is absurd. Emily abandoned the family. There's nothing to forgive or understand. Mr. Jenkins looked directly at Robert. Mr. Robert, how many years have you known your wife? 15 years. We met in college. And in those 15 years, have you ever known her to lie about something important? Robert thought for a few seconds. No, Emily was always very honest, sometimes brutally honest. Then why would you think she'd lie about her feelings at the hardest moment of your lives? The question caught Robert off guard. He'd never considered it from that angle. Mr. Jenkins, are you suggesting she wasn't being truthful when she said she didn't love me? I'm suggesting that people in despair say and do things that don't reflect their true feelings, Mr. Robert. Margaret interrupted. But she left. If she really loved him, she would have stayed. Sometimes people leave precisely because they love too much, Mrs. Margaret, when they believe their presence will only cause more pain. Matthew, who had been quiet in the corner of the room, stepped closer to his father. Dad, can Mr. Jenkins take me to see what Mom planted? Matthew, you don't understand, said Margaret. This is an adult matter. Actually, Mrs. Margaret, interrupted Mr. Jenkins, I think Matthew understands better than any of us. Children don't complicate things the way adults do. Robert looked at the gardener and then at his son. Mr. Jenkins, do you really believe this could help me in some way? I believe the truth always helps, Mr. Robert, even when it hurts. And do you think I can walk again? I think you never stopped being able to walk, Mr. Robert. You just forgot how. Margaret shook her head. Robert, this is madness. You need proper medical treatment, not therapeutic gardening. Margaret, the doctors already said there's nothing physically wrong with me. Then you need a psychologist, not a gardener. Maybe I need both. Mr. Jenkins smiled slightly. Mr. Robert, you don't have to decide anything right now. How about tomorrow morning you come down to the garden, just to get some air, talk a little. Matthew can help. I can push Dad's wheelchair, said the boy excitedly, and I can show you the plants Mrs. Emily loved to look at the most. Robert felt something stir in his chest. It wasn't exactly hope, but it was different from the numbness he'd felt for months. All right, tomorrow morning I'll come down. Margaret sighed. Fine, Robert, but I'll stay here for a few days to keep an eye on this situation. Great, you can stay in the guest room. Mr. Jenkins headed for the door. Then I'll see you tomorrow, Mr. Robert. Matthew. Mr. Jenkins, Robert called. Yes? Thank you for looking after my son these past months. Don't mention it, Mr. Robert. Matthew teaches me as much as I teach him. After the gardener left, Margaret approached her brother. Robert, I hope you know what you're doing. I don't, Margaret, but for the first time in 3 months I want to find out. That night, for the first time since Emily had passed, Robert didn't need Dorothy's help to get into bed. He transferred himself from the wheelchair, and when Matthew came to say goodnight, he managed to hug his son more naturally. Dad, do you think Mom will ever come back? The question pierced Robert's heart. He looked into his son's hopeful eyes and decided to be honest. I don't know, son, but I know the two of us will be okay no matter what happens. And will you walk again? I'll try, Matthew, I promise I'll try. The boy smiled and kissed his father's forehead. I love you, Dad. I love you too, son, more than you can imagine. The next morning, Dorothy helped Robert get dressed and go down to the garden. Matthew ran ahead, eager to show his father the places where he played with Mr. Jenkins. The garden was more beautiful than Robert remembered. The rose bushes were in bloom, the flower beds well kept, and there was a new bed he didn't recall seeing before. Mr. Jenkins made that new flower bed, Dad, said Matthew, pointing to a spot near the back fence. Mr. Jenkins approached, wiping his hands on his apron. Good morning, Mr. Robert. How are you feeling? Different. I can't quite explain it. That's normal. Sometimes we need to step out of our comfort zone to remember what it's like to be alive. Mr. Jenkins, about what you said yesterday, about Emily planting something. Come, I'll show you. The gardener guided the wheelchair to the back flower bed. There, several plants Robert didn't recognize were growing. What are these plants? Basil, lavender, rosemary, lemon balm, all plants Mrs. Emily specifically chose. Why these? Each one has a meaning, Mr. Robert. Basil symbolizes love and devotion. Lavender represents peace and serenity. Rosemary is for memory and remembrance. And the lemon balm is for emotional healing. Robert looked at the plants, trying to understand. Did she really say it was a message for me? She said that when you were ready, you'd understand everything she did was out of love. Out of love? Robert asked, bitterness in his voice. She destroyed our family out of love. Sometimes people destroy things to protect others, Mr. Robert. Matthew was silently watching the conversation, sitting on the grass beside the flower bed. Dad, Mr. Jenkins told me a story about Mom. What story, son? Mr. Jenkins looked at the boy and nodded, giving him permission to speak. Mom was afraid of something, Dad. She was keeping a secret that made her very sad. What secret, Matthew? Mr. Jenkins can explain it better. The gardener knelt beside Robert's chair. Mr. Robert, Mrs. Emily was sick. The words struck like lightning in the quiet garden. Sick? What do you mean, sick? She found something in her medical tests a few months before she left. Something that terrified her. Margaret! Robert shouted. Margaret! His sister appeared at the back door, walking toward them. What's wrong, Robert? Margaret, did you know Emily was sick? Margaret stopped mid-step, her face turning pale. Robert, you knew, he yelled. You knew and didn't tell me. Robert, calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. My wife was sick and you all hid it from me. Matthew started crying, frightened by his father's shouting. Mr. Jenkins immediately moved closer to comfort the boy. Dad, stop yelling, the boy sobbed. Robert looked at his son and felt a pain in his chest unlike anything he'd ever known. I'm sorry, son. I'm sorry. He held out his arms, and Matthew ran into his embrace, still crying. Margaret, explain what was going on, Robert said, more controlled now, but with a shaky voice. Margaret approached slowly and sat on a nearby bench. Emily found out she had a genetic condition, Robert, something that could manifest at any time. What kind of condition? A degenerative disease, something that could affect her movement, her memory, several bodily functions. And why didn't she tell me? Because she was afraid of how you'd react, afraid of becoming a burden to you and Matthew. Robert hugged his son tighter. A burden? How could she think she'd be a burden? Because you were going through financial troubles with the company, remember? She didn't want you to worry about her too. Financial troubles? Margaret, I would have sold everything if it meant taking care of her. I know, Robert, I tried to convince her to tell you, but she was too scared. Mr. Jenkins, who had stayed quiet, finally spoke. That's why she came to me, Mr. Robert. She wanted to leave an explanation, but couldn't bring herself to say it in person. And the story about her meeting someone else. A lie, Margaret said softly. She made it up so you wouldn't go after her. Where is she now, Margaret? In New York City, getting treatment at a specialized clinic. Robert closed his eyes, trying to process it all. For 3 months, she's been alone, facing this alone, thinking I don't care about her. She's not alone, Robert, Margaret said. I've been in touch with her, helping financially, visiting when I can. And you didn't think I had the right to know. I wanted to tell you, but she made me promise not to say anything until she was ready. Matthew lifted his face from his father's chest. Dad, does this mean Mum still loves us? The boy's innocent question left everyone silent. Yes, son, Robert said, tears in his eyes. It means she loves us very much. Then why doesn't she come home? Because she's scared, Matthew. Sometimes people do things they don't want to do because they're too afraid. But if she's sick, isn't it better to be home with us? Robert looked at Margaret and then at Mr. Jenkins. Yes, son, much better. At that moment, something happened. Robert felt a strange strength rising through his legs. It wasn't pain, but a sensation he hadn't felt in months. Mr. Jenkins, he said, help me out of this chair. Are you sure, Mr. Robert? Yes. The gardener held one of his arms, Margaret held the other, and Robert strained to stand up. His legs trembled but held his weight. "Dad!" Matthew shouted. "You're standing." "I am," Robert said, smiling through tears. "I'm standing." He took a small step, then another. His legs were weak after months of inactivity, but they worked. "Margaret, I want to talk to Emily." "Robert, she might not want to." "I don't care if she wants to or not. She's my wife, she's sick, and I'm going to take care of her. That's what you do when you love someone." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot, as we're just starting out. Now continuing. That afternoon, Margaret called Emily for the first time with Robert present. The phone rang several times before she answered. "Margaret, did something happen?" "Emily, Robert is here with me. He wants to talk to you." The silence on the other end lasted nearly a minute. "Margaret, I can't." "Emily, he knows everything. About the illness, the treatment, all of it." "How did he find out?" "The gardener told him about the plants you planted, and I confirmed the rest. I don't want him to see me like this, Margaret." Robert took the phone from his sister's hands. "Emily, it's me." He could hear her breathing on the other end, but she didn't speak. "Emily, please, talk to me." "Robert, I don't know what to say." "You can start by telling me how you're feeling." "Tired. So tired." "And the treatment? How's it going?" "Slow. The doctors say it could take years to know how the illness will progress." "And you were planning to go through this alone?" "Robert, you don't understand. I might need special care for the rest of my life. I could lose the ability to walk, to remember things. I can't do that to you and Matthew. Emily, when we got married, we made a vow in sickness and in health, remember? But that was before we knew the illness could be this severe. It doesn't matter how severe it is to me. I love you, Emily. And Matthew loves you. You're our family." On the other end of the line, Emily began to cry. "Robert, I said terrible things to you, things that weren't true." "I know," Margaret explained. "You were scared." "I said I never loved you. How can you forgive me for something like that?" "Because I know it wasn't true, because I've known you for 15 years, Emily. I know your heart." "What if I can't be the mother Matthew deserves? What if I can't be the wife you deserve? Then we'll figure out together how to be a different kind of family. But together, Emily, not apart." Matthew approached his father and signaled that he wanted to talk to his mother. "Emily, Matthew wants to talk to you." Okay." Robert passed the phone to his son. "Mom, is it really you?" "Hi, sweetheart. How are you?" "Sad, Mom. I missed you so much." "I missed you too, Matthew." "Mom, are you sick?" "I am, sweetheart, but I'm getting treatment." "Then you need to come home, Mom. When someone's sick, family takes care of them." The boy's simple words made Emily cry even harder. "Do you want me to come home, Matthew?" "So much, Mom." "Dad and I will take care of you, and Mr. Jenkins too. He knows all about healing plants." "The plants I planted in the garden, and did you see them?" "I did, Mom." Mr. Jenkins explained what each one means. "He said you love me very much." "I love you more than anything in the world, Matthew." "Then come back home, Mom, please." Robert took the phone back. "Emily, I'm coming to get you tomorrow." "Robert, I don't know if that's a good idea. I'm still so confused, so scared." "It's normal to be scared. I am too, but we'll face this together." "What if I get worse? What if it's too hard for you?" "Then it'll be hard, but it'll be our difficulty, not just yours. I don't want to be a burden in your lives." "Emily, you've never been a burden. You're the woman I love, the mother of my son. You're our family." On the other end of the line, Emily tried to hold back her tears. "Robert, for 3 months I've woken up every day afraid. Afraid of what might happen to me. Afraid of what it might do to you. And for 3 months, I've woken up every day wondering if I did something to push you away. Now I know I didn't. That you left because you love me, not because you don't. I miss home so much, Robert. I miss sleeping in our bed, making breakfast for Matthew, watching you work in the office." "Then come back, Emily, come home. But what if? No more what ifs, Emily. We'll handle problems as they come, together." Margaret, who had been listening, stepped closer. "Emily, I'm going with Robert to get you tomorrow. It's decided." "Margaret." "No arguments, Emily. You've suffered alone long enough." That night, Robert slept better than he had in months. Matthew insisted on sleeping in bed with his father, and the two talked late into the night about his mother's return. "Dad, do you think Mum will be different because of the illness?" "Maybe, son, but her love for us will never change." "And you won't need the wheelchair anymore." "I don't know, Matthew. Maybe sometimes when I'm very tired. But now I know I can walk when I need to." Mr. Jenkins said when you have a good reason to do something, your body helps. He's right, and we have the best reason in the world, our family. The next morning, Robert and Margaret left for New York City. During the trip, Margaret shared more details about Emily's condition. "Her illness is called spinocerebellar ataxia, Robert. It's genetic and progressive." "What does that mean exactly?" "It means it can affect motor coordination, balance, speech. In some cases, it may also affect cognition. How soon? There's no way to know. It could be months, it could be decades. Every case is different." "And treatment? There's physical therapy, speech therapy, medications to manage some symptoms, but there's no cure, Robert." "I understand. Are you sure you're ready for this? It could be very hard." Robert looked out the car window, watching the scenery pass. "Margaret, these 3 months taught me what it's like to live without the person I love. I'd rather face any hardship with her than spend one more day without her." When they arrived at the clinic in New York City, Robert grew nervous. He didn't know what condition Emily would be in or how she'd react to seeing him. "She's in room 237, Margaret said. "Do you want me to go in first?" "No, I will." Robert knocked lightly and entered. Emily was sitting in an armchair by the window, looking out at the clinic garden. When she saw him, her eyes filled with tears. "Robert." She was thinner, her face weary, but she was still the same Emily he loved. "Hi, sweetheart. You really came." "Of course I did. I came to take you home." Emily slowly rose from the chair. Robert noticed she moved carefully, as if testing her own balance. "Robert, I don't know if I can be the wife you married." "You don't need to be the same person, Emily. I'm not the same either. These 3 months have taught me so much about myself." "What did you learn?" "I learned that when you truly love someone, you want to be with them no matter what. I learned that family isn't about perfection. It's about sticking together." Emily stepped closer to him, still hesitant. "I'm so afraid, Robert." "I know. I'm afraid too. But now we'll be afraid together." "What if I can't take care of Matthew like I used to?" "Then we'll find new ways to care for him. And he'll learn to care for you too. Kids are stronger than we think." "I missed him so much. He's at home waiting for you. He's been tending the garden with Mr. Jenkins every day." "The garden. The plants I planted. They're beautiful." Mr. Jenkins explained the meaning of each one. "That's how we found out the truth." Emily smiled for the first time. "I hoped you'd understand. I wanted to leave you an explanation, but I couldn't find the words." "I did understand, Emily. I understood that you love me so much you'd rather suffer alone than make us suffer with you. But you suffered anyway. We suffered because we didn't know the truth. Now that we do, we can face it together." Emily finally moved close enough for Robert to embrace her. They held each other for minutes, both crying with relief and longing. "I love you, Robert. I never stopped loving you." "I know, and I love you too. Always will." "Let's go home?" "Let's go home." The ride back was different. Emily talked about her 3 months at the clinic, the fears she faced, the times she almost called home but couldn't bring herself to. "Every morning I woke up wanting to talk to Matthew, but I was afraid he wouldn't forgive me." "He never had anything to forgive, Emily. He just wanted his mother back. And you? Do you forgive me for lying, for leaving like that?" "There's nothing to forgive. You did what you thought was best for us. You were wrong, but your heart was in the right place. How can you be so understanding? Because these 3 months gave me a lot of time to think, and I realized life's too short to hold grudges against the people we love." When they arrived home, Matthew was waiting at the window. As soon as he saw the car, he ran through the garden. "Mommy, Mommy!" Emily stepped out and opened her arms. Matthew threw himself into them with such force he nearly knocked her over. "Matthew, be careful with Mommy," Robert said. "It's okay," Emily said, hugging her son. "It's okay. Mommy, you're not leaving again." "Never again, sweetheart. Never again." Mr. Jenkins appeared in the garden, smiling. "Welcome back, Mrs. Emily." "Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Thank you for looking after my family. Thank you for leaving that message in the garden. It helped us find the truth. Did the plants grow well?" "Come see." They walked together to the backyard bed. The plants were bigger and more beautiful than when Emily had planted them. "Matthew helped me tend to them every day," Mr. Jenkins said. "It's true, Mommy. I learned all their names and what they're for." "And what do they mean?" Emily asked. "That you love us very much," Matthew said simply. That night, for the first time in 3 months, the family had dinner together. Emily talked about her treatment, the exercises she'd need to do, the challenges she might face. "Mommy, will you need a wheelchair like Daddy did?" Matthew asked. "Maybe one day, sweetheart. Would that scare you?" "No. If you need a wheelchair, I'll push you, just like I pushed Daddy's." Robert smiled, remembering how his son had offered to help. "What if I forget some things, Matthew? The illness might affect my memory. Then I'll remind you of everything, Mum. I'll tell you our stories so you won't forget." Emily looked at her husband, moved by their son's wisdom. How can he be so mature at just 8 years old? "Children understand what's important better than adults," said Robert. After dinner, they went out to the garden. Robert had asked Mr. Jenkins to prepare a surprise. "What is it, Dad?" "You'll see." In the main flower bed, Mr. Jenkins had planted new seedlings to spell out the words "Welcome Home." "Mr. Jenkins, when did you do this?" "This morning, Mr. Robert. Matthew helped me." "It's beautiful," Emily said, her voice trembling. "It's the most beautiful garden I've ever seen. Mom, Mr. Jenkins said we'll plant more things together, plants that help when we're sad or scared." "What kind of plants?" "Chamomile to calm you, mint for energy, sunflowers for joy," recited Matthew, proud he had memorized them. "And there's one more thing, Mrs. Emily," said Mr. Jenkins. "Matthew wants to learn how to make a real medicinal garden to help you with your treatments. Is that possible?" "Of course. Some plants help with anxiety, sleep, muscle pain. They won't cure the illness, but they can ease some symptoms." "Then let's make this garden," Emily said. "Let's do it together." In the weeks that followed, the family settled into a new routine. Emily did physical therapy every morning, worked in the garden in the afternoon, and spent her evenings talking with Robert and Matthew. The medicinal garden grew and became a family project. Even Margaret started visiting regularly to help. "Robert, are you sure you don't regret bringing Emily back?" "Margaret, these have been the best days of my life in a long time, even knowing it might get harder, especially knowing that every good day we have is a gift." One day, about 2 months after Emily's return, she had a motor coordination episode in the garden. Her legs locked up and she fell among the plants. "Robert!" Matthew shouted. Robert ran to help her, and for the first time since he had started walking again, he moved without hesitation or fear. "Emily, are you okay?" "I'm fine. I just froze for a moment." "Did it hurt?" "No, it was just scary." Matthew approached, worried. "Mom, should we call the doctor?" "No need, sweetheart. This happens sometimes." "But were you scared?" "I was. But then I looked at the two of you, and the fear went away." "Why?" "Because I know you'll take care of me no matter what happens." Robert helped Emily up and took her inside. Later, when Matthew was asleep, they talked about what had happened. "Robert, you saw how it can be. This might happen again, and it could be worse." "I saw, and I also saw that we can handle it." "You weren't scared?" "I was. But I didn't think of giving up, not even for a second. Even if it gets really hard. Emily, when you were gone, I literally couldn't walk. Now I run if I have to. You know why? Why? Because having you here, even with the illness, is so much better than not having you at all. What if I need constant care? Then you'll have constant care. What if I can't contribute to the family anymore? Emily, your contribution isn't just about work or chores. Your contribution is being you, being Matthew's mother, being my wife, being part of this family." That night, Emily slept peacefully for the first time since she had learned of her illness. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. 6 months after Emily's return, the family had found a new balance. Emily had good days and bad days, but she never felt alone in facing her illness again. The medicinal garden became well known in the neighborhood. Other families dealing with chronic illnesses began visiting, asking for advice about plants and natural treatments. "Mr. Jenkins, do you think we could open this up to more people?" Robert asked one day. "What do you mean, Mr. Robert?" "To start a regular program teaching other families about therapeutic gardening. That would be wonderful. So many people could benefit." "Emily, what do you think?" "I think it would give meaning to everything we've been through." And so the Garden of Hope project was born. Every week, families facing chronic illnesses gathered in the Thompsons' garden to learn about medicinal plants and share their experiences. Matthew became the program's official assistant, teaching other children how to care for the plants and support sick family members. "Matthew, how did you learn to be so brave?" A girl whose grandmother had Alzheimer's asked. "I learned that when you love someone, you're not afraid to help. You're afraid not to help." A year later, on a Sunday morning, Emily woke up feeling particularly well. She made breakfast for the family, tended to the plants, and in the afternoon welcomed the families from the program. At the end of the day, after everyone had left, she sat in the garden with Robert and Matthew. "You know what?" she said. "What?" they both asked at once. "I've thought a lot these past months about regrets, whether I regret leaving, whether you regret bringing me back." "And what's the conclusion?" Robert asked. "That life isn't about avoiding hard things, it's about facing them with the right people." "And who are the right people?" Matthew asked. "You two," Emily said, hugging them. "You're the right people." "Even if you get sicker?" the boy asked. "Especially if I get sicker, because then I'll need you even more." "And we'll be here," Robert said. "Always." That night, after putting Matthew to bed, Robert and Emily stayed in the garden watching the stars. "Robert, do you remember what Mr. Jenkins said that first day?" "He said a lot of things. What specifically?" "That you needed to understand what was really holding you back." "I remember." "And did you figure it out?" Robert thought for a few seconds. "I did. What held me back wasn't losing you. It was not knowing why you left. It was thinking I'd failed as a husband." "And now?" "Now I know that sometimes people make hard choices for reasons that have nothing to do with us, and that real love outlasts those choices." "What about the future? Are you still afraid?" "I am, but it's not a fear that paralyzes me. It's one that makes me cherish every good day we have." "I love you, Robert." "I love you too, Emily." In the garden, the plants Emily had planted nearly 2 years earlier continued to grow, stronger and more beautiful with each season. The basil representing love and devotion, the lavender symbolizing peace, the rosemary preserving memories, and the lemon balm fostering emotional healing. 2 years later, when Matthew turned 10, the family threw a big celebration in the garden. All the families from the Garden of Hope program came, along with neighbors, friends, and even some doctors who had taken an interest in their work with medicinal plants. "Dad, can I make a speech?" Matthew asked. "Of course, son." The boy climbed onto a chair so everyone could see him. "I want to thank everyone who came to my party, but mostly, I want to talk about something I've learned over the years." Everyone fell silent, curious to hear what the boy had to say. "I've learned that family isn't about being perfect. It's about sticking together even when things get hard. My mom has an incurable illness, but our family has love, and that's stronger than any sickness." The adults were moved by the boy's words. "I also learned that when you plant a seed, you don't know exactly how the plant will grow. But if you nurture it with love, something beautiful always grows. And our family is like a garden. Sometimes there are storms, sometimes droughts, but if we care for it with love, it always stays beautiful. So I want to thank my dad, who started walking again when he found a reason to. My mum, who came home when she realized she didn't have to face everything alone, and Mr. Jenkins, who taught me that believing isn't about waiting for miracles, it's about working every day to make things better. The whole garden applauded the boy. Emily and Robert were crying with pride. "And now, let's eat cake," shouted Matthew, making everyone laugh. Later, when the party was over and Matthew was asleep, Emily and Robert talked with Mr. Jenkins in the garden. "Mr. Jenkins, thank you for not giving up on our family," said Emily. "Thank you for believing it was possible when we didn't." "Mrs. Emily, I just did what anyone who loves a family would do." "No, Mr. Jenkins," said Robert. "You did much more than that. You taught us that hope is like a plant. It needs to be nurtured every day." "And that love is the best medicine," Emily added. "And that family means sticking together, especially when it's hard," said Robert. Mr. Jenkins smiled, looking at the garden that had become so much more than a collection of plants. It had become a symbol of resilience, love, and family. "You know something I never told you?" the gardener said. "What?" they both asked. "When Mrs. Emily came to talk to me before she left, she was desperate. She said she didn't know what to do anymore, that she was afraid of destroying the family." "And what did you tell her?" Emily asked. "I said sometimes you have to plant a seed of hope and trust that someone will know how to care for it." "Was the seed the plants?" Robert asked. "The plants were just the beginning. The real seed was the message they carried." "What message?" "That true love doesn't give up. It might get confused, it might be afraid, it might even leave for a while, but it always comes back." "And did you really believe it would work?" Emily asked. "I believed in the strength of your love. And I believed Matthew was wise enough to help his parents remember what really matters." That night, for the first time in years, Robert fell asleep without worry in his heart. Emily slept without fear of the future. And Matthew slept happily, knowing his family was whole. In the garden, the plants kept growing, silent witnesses to a love story that had overcome fear, illness, separation, and doubt. 3 years had passed since Emily's return. The illness had progressed, as expected. Some days, she needed a wheelchair. Others, she could walk with help. Her speech sometimes faltered, and she occasionally forgot small things. But the family had learned to adapt to every change. Matthew, now 11, knew exactly how to help his mom in every situation. Robert had become an expert in home medical care, and Mr. Jenkins kept creating new sections in the garden to help with different aspects of the illness. The Garden of Hope program had grown so much that they needed to create a website and start receiving visitors from other cities. Universities sent students to learn about plant therapy. Doctors came to see the results of their work. "Emily, did you ever imagine our story would have this kind of impact?" Robert asked one day. "Never. I just wanted to leave an explanation in the garden. I never thought it would turn into all this." "And what do you think about everything that's happened?" "I think sometimes God uses our greatest struggles to create our greatest blessings." "Are you calling the illness a blessing?" "No. I'm talking about what the illness taught us about love, about family, about what truly matters in life." "Do you regret anything?" "Only leaving. If I could go back in time, I would have stayed and faced everything with you from the beginning. But if you hadn't left, maybe I never would have realized how much you mean to me." "What do you mean?" "Emily, when you were here, I took your presence for granted. I thought you'd always be here. When you left, I learned nothing in life is guaranteed, that every day together is a gift. And now I wake up every day grateful to have you here. Even on the hard days, even when you're not feeling well, I'm thankful. Even knowing it could get worse, especially knowing it could get worse, because it makes me cherish every good moment we have even more." One morning, Emily woke up and couldn't get out of bed. Her legs wouldn't respond as usual and she felt dizzy. "Robert," she called, her voice weaker. "What is it, love?" "I think today's going to be a hard day." "That's okay. We'll face it together." Robert helped Emily sit up in bed and then transferred her to the wheelchair. "Do you want me to call the doctor?" "No, it's just the normal progression of the illness. I was expecting this." "How are you feeling?" "Sad. but not hopeless like I would have been before. Why not hopeless? Because I know you and Matthew will take care of me. And I know I can still contribute to our family, even with limitations. How? I can keep giving love. I can still be a mother and a wife, just in a different way. Matthew appeared at the bedroom door, ready for school. Mom, aren't you getting up today? Not today, sweetheart. My legs are tired. Do you want me to stay home to take care of you? You don't have to. Your dad will take care of me. Go to school and tell me everything you learn later. Okay, are you going to be sad? I'll be a little sad, but I won't be hopeless. Know why? Why? Because I have you, and having you makes any hard day easier. Matthew kissed his mother and left for school. During the day, Robert worked from home to stay close to Emily. Robert, you don't have to put your life on hold because of my illness. I'm not putting my life on hold. I'm living my life in a way that makes sense to me. And what way is that? By the side of the person I love, even if it means sacrifices. Emily, taking care of you isn't a sacrifice, it's a choice, and the easiest choice I've ever made. That afternoon, they received a visit from a journalist who wanted to write an article about the Garden of Hope program. Mrs. Emily, could you tell me how the idea for the project came about? It actually came from a personal need. When I found out I had a degenerative illness, I was terrified, and that fear made me make wrong decisions. What kind of decisions? I left home, abandoned my family. I thought I was protecting them, but I was really causing more pain. And how did the idea for the plants come about? Before leaving, I wanted to leave an explanation for my husband, but I couldn't say it in person. So I planted some plants with specific meanings, hoping he'd understand. And did he? Not right away, but our gardener helped him figure it out. And it was through the plants that they discovered where I was and why I'd left. And the current project? After I came home, we realized many other families were going through similar situations. People with chronic illnesses who felt isolated, relatives who didn't know how to help. The garden became a space for emotional healing. What's the importance of plants in this process? Plants teach us about patience, about care, about growth even in tough conditions. When someone tends to a plant, they learn to care for themselves and others. And how does your illness affect the work? Sometimes it limits me physically, but it also gives me a unique perspective. I understand the fear people feel, the sense of losing control, and I can share how it's possible to live with dignity despite limitations. What message would you like to leave for other families facing similar situations? Emily looked at Robert, who was beside her, then out the window at the garden. That true love isn't about having a perfect life. It's about standing together through imperfections. It's about growing through hardships, like plants that bloom even in difficult soil. When the journalist left, Robert and Emily stayed in the garden, watching the people participating in that afternoon's program. "Do you see that woman over there?" said Emily, pointing to a woman around 70 tending to a lavender bed. "I do." She cares for her husband, who's had Parkinson's for 5 years. When she first came here, she was completely desperate, thought she couldn't go on. And now? Now she brings her husband along. They tend to the plants together. She realized she can be a caregiver without ceasing to be a wife. And that young man there? He cares for his mother with Alzheimer's. When he arrived, he was angry at the illness, the situation, life itself. He thought it was unfair to give up his own plans to care for her. What changed? He understood that caring for his mother wasn't about abandoning his plans. It was about building different ones, no less important. And us? What have we learned from all this? That the unbelievable really does happen, Robert. Not how we expect, but it happens. How so? When Mr. Jenkins told Matthew you had to believe you could walk again, we thought he meant a physical miracle. And he didn't. He meant something bigger. He meant believing a family could be rebuilt, even after it's broken. He meant believing love can overcome anything. And the unbelievable thing that happened was discovering we're stronger together than we thought, turning our pain into something that helps others. Learning that family isn't about having no problems, it's about solving them together. Just then, Matthew came home from school and ran to his parents. "Mom, Dad, something amazing happened at school today." "What, sweetheart?" The teacher asked everyone to talk about their family. When it was my turn, I told our story about when Dad couldn't walk when Mom left, how Mr. Jenkins helped us, and what happened. Everyone was moved. The teacher said our family is an example of resilience. "Do you know what resilience means?" asked Robert. "It means being like the plants in the garden, Dad, that keep growing even in a storm." Emily and Robert smiled, proud of their son's wisdom. "And there's more," continued Matthew excitedly. "The teacher wants to bring the whole class to visit our garden." "That's wonderful, son. It'll be nice to have your classmates here. Can I show them how to care for the medicinal plants?" "Of course. You already know almost as much as Mr. Jenkins." That night, after Matthew had gone to sleep, Emily and Robert stayed talking on the porch. "Robert, do you think our story will inspire others?" "It already is. You've seen how many families are part of the program now. But I mean on a bigger level. Do you think it can show people that it's possible to overcome any hardship?" "I think it can show that it's not about overcoming hardships. It's about learning to live with them in a way that makes sense." "And what's the difference?" "Overcoming suggests you go through the hardship, and it ends. Living with it means accepting that it's part of life, but it doesn't define your whole life." "And have we learned to live with the illness?" "We've learned to live despite the illness, to build a good life, even with the limitations it brings." "And do you think that's the unbelievable Mr. Jenkins talked about?" "I think the unbelievable is discovering that when you truly love someone, there's no situation you can't face together. Even if I get much worse. Especially if you get much worse, because then you'll need me even more, and I'll get to show you even more how much I love you. What if I can't speak properly anymore? Then I'll learn to understand you in other ways. What if I forget important things? Then I'll remember them for you, and Matthew will help. What if I can't take care of myself anymore? Then I'll take care of you, with all the love in the world. Why are you like this with me, Robert? Because when I almost lost you, I realized you're not just my wife. You're my best friend, my partner, the mother of my child, my family. You're part of who I am. And I don't become a burden. Emily, you'll never be a burden. You might need more care, but you'll never be a burden." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I know the difference between caring for someone out of obligation and caring for someone out of love. And I love you. So taking care of you will never be an obligation." 2 months later, the Garden of Hope program was invited to present its results at a National Integrative Medicine Conference. "Emily, do you feel up to giving this presentation?" asked Robert. "I do, and I want to. I think it's important to share our experience. What if you have an episode during the presentation? Then I'll handle it in the moment, and you'll help me. Always." On the day of the presentation, Emily was nervous. Her speech had worsened in recent weeks, and she was afraid she wouldn't be able to express herself clearly. "Robert, what if I can't speak properly? Then I'll finish the presentation for you. Or Matthew. He loves talking about the garden." "You brought him along?" "Of course, he's part of the story." The presentation was moving. Emily managed to share the family's journey, from their departure to the creation of the program. When her voice grew weaker at the end, Matthew stepped onto the stage and completed the story. "What my mom means," said the 11-year-old boy to an audience of doctors and researchers, "is that we've learned family isn't about being perfect. It's about sticking together even when it's hard. And that plants don't just heal the body, they heal the heart too. And that when you truly believe in love, the unbelievable really does happen." The audience stood and applauded for several minutes. After the presentation, many doctors approached to congratulate the family and ask for more details about the program. "Mrs. Emily, have you been able to quantify the program's results?" "Not in exact numbers, doctor, but I can say that in 3 years, none of the families participating in the program have had cases of severe depression or separation due to the illness." "And what do you attribute that to?" "To the discovery that you're not alone. When you realize other people are going through the same thing as you, the feeling of isolation lessens." "And the work with plants specifically?" "Plants teach patience, care, and hope. When you plant a seed, you're saying you believe in the future, and that's very powerful for people facing degenerative illnesses. On the way back home, the family talked about the experience. "Mom, were you nervous?" asked Matthew. "I was, but when I saw the two of you by my side, the nervousness went away." "Why?" "Because I remembered our story isn't just mine, it's ours, and together we're stronger." "Dad, do you think our presentation will help other families?" "I hope so, son. If even one family is inspired by our story not to give up, it will have been worth it." "And what did you like most about the trip, Matthew?" asked Emily. "Seeing how moved people were by our story, and realizing other families go through the same things we do. And what did that teach you? That we're not special because we have problems. We're special because of how we handle them." Back at home, the garden was more beautiful than ever. Mr. Jenkins had taken care of everything while the family was away. "How are things here, Mr. Jenkins?" asked Robert. "Quiet. A few new families came by asking to join the program." "How many families are participating now?" 62 regular families, Mr. Robert, and over 200 who've been part of it at some point." "It's amazing how much it's grown," said Emily. "And there's news," said Mr. Jenkins, smiling. "The university wants to conduct a formal study on the results of our work." "What kind of study?" "They want to follow participating families for 2 years, documenting the emotional and physical benefits of the program." "And are you all on board?" asked the lead researcher, who had accompanied Mr. Jenkins. "Of course," said Robert. "If it helps prove the effectiveness of what we do, it's very important." "And would you be willing to expand the program to other cities?" "How so?" asked Emily. "Create a replicable model. Train other gardeners and families to open gardens of hope in other regions." The family exchanged glances, surprised by the proposal. "That would be incredible," said Matthew. "We could help families all over the United States." "But it would be a huge responsibility," Emily pointed out. "You don't have to decide now," said the researcher. "Think it over. If you decide to accept, the university will provide all the necessary support." That night, the family discussed the proposal. "What do you all think?" asked Robert. "I think it would give even more meaning to everything we've been through," said Emily. "But are you up for taking on such a big project?" asked Robert, concerned. "Not me alone, but we are." "How so?" "Robert, our strength has always come from working together. If we expand the project, we'll do it together too." "And I can help," said Matthew. "I can teach other kids how to help their families." "Are you sure, son? It's a big commitment." "I'm sure, Dad. I want other kids to learn what I've learned. That family means sticking together even when it's hard." "And you, Emily? Are you sure you want to commit to this?" "Robert, when I planted those first seedlings in the garden, I never imagined it would lead to all this. But now I see our story might really help a lot of people. Even knowing your illness could progress. Especially because of that. The more I progress in my illness, the more authentic our experience will be for other families." "What do you mean?" "Other families will see that it's possible to maintain dignity, love, and hope, even as the illness progresses. They'll see there's no need for despair. And if you can no longer participate actively, then Matthew and you will carry on. My contribution will be to show that love is worth fighting for, even when the fight gets harder." A year later, the first Garden of Hope outside the family's hometown opened in Chicago. Within 6 months, 3 more were established in other cities. Matthew, now 12, had become a kind of ambassador for the project, traveling with his parents to train other families. "Matthew, how do you explain to other children how to help sick parents or family members?" a journalist asked during an interview. "I tell them we don't have to be afraid. That illness isn't anyone's fault, and that we can help in many different ways." "What ways?" "Sometimes helping means pushing a wheelchair. Sometimes it's doing a task the person can't do anymore. Sometimes it's just giving a hug when they're sad. And what's the most important thing? The most important thing is not to treat the person differently just because they're sick. They're still a mother, father, grandparent. The illness doesn't change who they are inside. What have you learned from caring for your mother?" "I've learned that caring for someone you love isn't hard. It's different, but not hard." "And your plans for the future?" "I want to study medicine or psychology to better understand how to help families going through what we've been through." "Do you think your experience will help you professionally?" "Yes, Because I know what it's like to be on the side of someone who needs help. I know fear, hope, and having to adapt. That's important for anyone who wants to help others. 2 years after the first garden opened in another city, there were already 15 Gardens of Hope across the United States. The university had published a study confirming the program's benefits for families facing chronic illnesses. Emily was more physically limited, but remained actively involved. Some days, she needed a wheelchair full-time, and her speech was slower, but her enthusiasm for the work hadn't faded. "Emily, don't you think you're pushing yourself too hard?" Margaret asked during a visit. "No, Margaret. I think I'm making the best use of the time I have." "But shouldn't you be resting more?" "Why, to wait for the illness to progress? I'd rather use my energy doing something meaningful." "What if you get too tired?" "Then I'll rest. But as long as I can contribute, I will." "Robert, do you agree with this?" "Margaret, these past few years have taught me that happiness doesn't come from trying to shield Emily from everything. It comes from supporting her choices and being by her side. Even if those choices leave her more exhausted, Emily tires more when she lacks purpose, not when she has it. The garden work gives her energy." "How is that possible?" "Because when you do something you love with people you love, you find strength you didn't know you had," Emily explained. That year, Matthew turned 14. To celebrate, the family organized a special party at the original garden, bringing together representatives from all the Gardens of Hope across the country. "Matthew," Mr. Jenkins said during the party, "do you remember the first time we talked about your mother and father?" "I do. You said my father needed to believe he could walk again. And what do you understand about that now?" "I understand you weren't just talking about walking with his legs. You meant walking through life again, having a reason to keep going." And the unbelievable thing that happened? The unbelievable part was discovering that our family could grow even stronger after almost breaking apart. "And what would you say to a child going through the same situation you went through?" Matthew thought for a few seconds before answering. "I'd say sometimes things get really hard, and it feels like there's no way out. But if we don't give up, if we keep believing in our family's love, there's always a way for things to be okay again. Even if being okay is different from how it was before, especially if it's different, because we learn there are many different ways to be happy." That night, after all the guests had left, the family stayed in the garden watching the stars, just as they had for years. "Emily, if you could go back in time, would you change anything?" Robert asked. "I'd change how I handled the fear at the beginning. I'd try to be braver, more trusting in our love." "Just that?" "Just that. Because everything that happened afterward brought good things along with the hard ones." "What about you, Robert?" Matthew asked. "I'd change taking your mother for granted for so many years. I wish I'd appreciated every ordinary day we had before the illness." "And you, Matthew? What would you change?" Emily asked. "Nothing, Mom. Because if I changed anything, maybe other families wouldn't have been helped by the gardens, and that's more important than anything we went through." "How can you think like that, son?" "Because you taught me that when we turn our pain into something that helps others, the pain gets smaller and life feels more meaningful." 5 years had passed since that conversation in the garden. Matthew was in college studying psychology, but still joined the project during breaks. Emily was more limited now, but still attended the weekly meetings in the garden. The project had grown to 50 cities and helped over 3,000 families. The university had created an official course on garden therapy, and Mr. Jenkins had become an honorary professor. "Mr. Jenkins," Robert said one day, "did you ever imagine our talk that first day would lead to all this?" "No, Mr. Robert. I just knew true love always finds a way to bloom, even in the toughest conditions." "And you still believe that?" "More than ever, because you've proven it's true." "How?" "You've proven it's possible to love someone even more after almost losing them. You've proven something beautiful can grow from something painful. You've proven family isn't about having no problems, it's about solving them together. What do you think comes next?" "I think you'll keep being an example for other families. You'll keep showing the unbelievable really does happen when we believe in the power of love." In the garden, the original plants Emily had planted nearly 10 years ago still thrived, stronger and more beautiful than ever. The basil, lavender, rosemary, and lemon balm had spread across the entire garden, as if eager to share their messages of love, peace, memory, and healing in every corner. One Sunday afternoon, Emily was in the garden observing a new family joining the program for the first time, a young couple with their 5-year-old daughter. The father had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and was struggling to accept his condition. "I don't know if I can do this," the man told his wife. "I don't know if I can be a father if I can't do the things I used to." Emily slowly approached them in her wheelchair. "Can I share something?" she asked. "Of course," the woman said. "When I found out about my illness, I also thought I couldn't be a mother, a wife, or even myself anymore. I thought my identity was tied to the things I could do." "And wasn't it?" the man asked. "No, my identity was tied to the love I felt and received, and that's something illness could never take away." "But how do you explain that to a young child?" "Children understand far more than we think. My son was 8 when it all began. Now he's 19 and one of the wisest young men I know. And he never rebelled? Never felt angry about the situation? He did, many times, but we always talked about those feelings, and he learned that it's normal to have difficult emotions and that it doesn't mean we love our family any less." "What about the future? How did you handle the uncertainty?" "We stopped trying to control the future and started living well in the present. Every good day is a gift. Every moment of joy is a victory." "And are you still happy?" "We're happy in a different way than before, but perhaps even happier because now we know the value of every moment together." The couple's young daughter was playing among the plants, picking flowers. "What kind of flowers are these?" she asked Emily. "They're special flowers, my dear. Each one has a meaning." "What meaning?" "This one is lavender, which means peace. This is basil, which means love. This is rosemary, which means good memories. And this is lemon balm, which means healing." "Do they really do those things?" "They remind us to have those things, my dear. Sometimes we need reminders so we don't forget what's important. And what's important? Love, family, sticking together even when it's hard." The little girl smiled and kept playing. Her parents watched the interaction, visibly moved. "How did you manage to turn something so difficult into something so beautiful?" the girl's mother asked. "It wasn't easy," Emily admitted. "There were moments of despair, fear, anger, but we always came back to what truly mattered, our family." "And was that enough?" "It was more than enough. It was everything." As the sun began to set, the new family left but promised to return the following week. Emily stayed in the garden, looking at the plants she had planted so many years ago. Robert walked over and sat on the bench beside her chair. "What are you thinking about?" "I'm thinking about how surprising life is. When I planted those first seedlings, I was desperate, just wanting to leave an explanation. And now? Now they've become a symbol of hope for hundreds of families. Do you think it was worth it? All the suffering, all the hardships?" "Robert, if our suffering helped other families suffer less, then every tear we shed was worth it." "And if you could choose a different life? Without illness, without complications?" "A different life wouldn't have taught us what we've learned. It wouldn't have given us the chance to help so many people. It wouldn't have shown us what real love is made of." "What is real love made of, in your opinion?" "Daily choice. Deciding every day to stay together, even when staying together is hard. Turning problems into shared solutions." "And do you still believe in the unbelievable?" "More than ever, because I live the unbelievable every day." "How so?" "It's unbelievable that a family that nearly fell apart became stronger. It's unbelievable that a degenerative illness brought so much growth. It's unbelievable that simple plants helped heal broken hearts." Just then, Matthew arrived home from college and joined his parents in the garden. "How was class today, son?" "Interesting, Mum. We studied alternative therapies for families in crisis." "Did you share our experience?" "I did. And the professor asked if you'd give a talk to the class." "Me? But my speech is getting harder to understand." "Mum, your speech may be slower, but your words are still powerful." "Do you really think so?" "I'm sure of it. You've changed the lives of thousands of people. That's no small thing." "We changed them, Matthew. Our family. Together." That's true, but it started with you, with your courage to plant those seeds in the garden. And with Mr. Jenkins' wisdom, who knew how to interpret the message, Robert added. And with your courage, Dad, to believe it was worth trying again. And with your innocence, son, which reminded us of what truly matters. That night, after Matthew went to study, Emily and Robert talked about the lecture she had been invited to give. Robert, do you think I can manage a whole lecture? My speech really is slower now. Emily, you've spent years inspiring people with your story. A lecture is just one more way to do that. What if I can't finish? Then I'll finish for you, or Matthew will, or we'll do it together. Always together, right? Always together. And you don't get tired of always having to help me, of always having to adapt? Emily, you help me just as much as I help you. You help me be a better person, a better father, a better man. How? You teach me every day about courage, about determination, about how to live well even with limitations. You teach me about true love and the future. Do you think about what it'll be like when I need even more care? I do, and I'm not afraid. Why not? Because I've already been through the worst thing that could happen to me, almost losing you. Whatever comes after that, I can face. Even if it's really hard? Especially if it's really hard. Because then you'll need me even more, and I'll get to show you just how much I love you. A week later, Emily gave the lecture at Matthew's college. The room was packed with students of psychology, medicine, and occupational therapy. She told the whole story of their family, from her departure to the creation of the gardens. Her speech was indeed slower, but that didn't lessen the impact of her words. My illness taught me that we're stronger than we think, she said. Not because we can avoid hardships, but because we can grow through them. And our family taught me that true love isn't about having a perfect life. It's about building a meaningful life, even when life isn't perfect. The gardens taught me that when we plant seeds of hope, even in the hardest times, something beautiful always grows. When she finished, the audience sat in silence for a few seconds before erupting in applause. Several students came up afterward to ask questions. Mrs. Emily, what advice would you give someone who just found out they have a serious illness? Don't face it alone. Let the people who love you help you. And remember, you are so much more than your illness. And for families? Don't be afraid of being afraid. It's normal to be scared. But don't let fear make decisions for you. Make decisions based on love. Do you regret anything? Only trying to protect my family by pulling away from them. I learned that real protection is being close, not distant. And what's your greatest achievement? Learning that it's possible to be happy even with limitations, and helping other families learn that too. After the lecture, Matthew said to his parents, "Mom, did you see how moved people were by your story?" "I did. It's amazing how our experience can help others." "And did you see how your speech, even slower, is still clear and touching?" "Matthew, you always give me confidence. Because you deserve confidence, Mom. You're the bravest person I know. And you're the wisest son a mother could have. And Dad is the most devoted husband a wife could ask for. And we are the luckiest family in the world," said Robert, hugging them both. That evening in the garden, the family talked about their future plans. "Matthew, have you decided what specialization you want to pursue in psychology?" asked Emily. "I want to specialize in family therapy for chronic illness situations." "Because of our experience?" "Partly, but mostly because I've discovered I have a calling to help families find ways to stay strong together, even in difficult times." "And after college?" "I want to come back here and expand the garden project even further. I want to create an institute that trains professionals to work with therapy through gardening." "That would be amazing, son. And what about you two? What are your plans for the next few years?" "We want to keep welcoming families here in the original garden," said Robert, "and support the growth of the project. And I want to write a book about our experience," said Emily. "A book?" Robert and Matthew asked together. "Yes, so other families who can't come to the gardens can still benefit from our story. Do you think you could write an entire book?" "Maybe not alone, but with your help, yes." Then let's write it together, said Robert. I'll help with the research, said Matthew, and Mr. Jenkins can contribute the technical part about the plants. Would it be a book written by the whole family? It would be a book about how families can overcome anything when they work together. 2 years later, the book, Garden of Hope, a story of love and resilience, was published and became a national success. Emily, Robert, and Matthew traveled across the country for book signings and talks. The book told their family's entire story, from the discovery of the illness to the creation of the therapeutic gardens. It included testimonials from other families who had participated in the program and practical guidance on how to create therapeutic gardens. Emily, did you ever imagine our story would have this kind of impact? Robert asked during a book signing in New York City. Never. When I planted those first seedlings, I just wanted to make sense of things. Now I see that explanation has turned into inspiration for thousands of people. And how does that make you feel? It makes me feel like our pain wasn't in vain, that every tear we shed turned into hope for other families. Do you think we fulfilled our purpose? I think we're still fulfilling it. As long as there are families in need of hope, we'll keep sharing our story. During a book signing, an older woman approached Emily with tears in her eyes. Mrs. Emily, I wanted to thank you. Thank me for what? My husband has had Parkinson's for 5 years. I was thinking about leaving because I couldn't handle it anymore. And what changed? I read your book. I realized it's not about whether you can or can't handle it. It's about learning new ways to cope. And are you doing better now? We're learning to be okay in a different way. We started a small garden at home like you suggest in the book. Has it helped? Very much. Taking care of the plants together gave us something we can do despite his limitations. And it reminded me that we're still a family even with the illness. I'm so happy to hear that. Your story taught me that true love isn't about having an easy life. It's about building a good life, even when life isn't easy. End of story. Dear listeners, what did you think of this story of love, resilience, and hope? Do you believe it's possible to turn life's greatest challenges into opportunities for growth? Share your own family stories of overcoming hardships in the comments. Leave a like if this story touched your heart, and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories like this one.